Hey everyone, I'm Liz Fairy and today I'm continuing my realistically shaped muscular crochet doll. This is part 3 of the tutorial. Find a link to parts 1 and 2 in the description. So let's continue where we left off in part 2. Next I'm going to divide the row in half to make each of the legs. Before you make the legs, make sure the first stitch is at the very middle of the back or the front of the work. Next I need to chain 1 for every 12 stitches I have left in my row. First I'm going to count my stitches. I have 30 stitches in my row, so I'm going to chain 2. Then I'm going to divide the stitches I have left in half so I can find the number of stitches I need to skip to create the leg holes. So since I have 30 stitches in my row, I'm going to count, starting with the next stitch, 15 stitches. Alright, this is the 15th stitch. Now I'm going to skip all these other stitches and I'm going to single crochet into this 15th stitch. But I'm also going to bring my chain in between these two leg wires. And then single crochet into the 15th stitch. And I'm going to mark that as the new first stitch of the row. And then I'm just going to single crochet until I get back to the first stitch of the row. If you had an odd number of stitches left, just round down to the next even number and divide your row in half, and count out that many stitches instead. Then instead of doing regular single crochet in this stitch after your skipped stitches, you would decrease this stitch and the next stitch together, so that you have an even number of stitches in your row. Then I'm going to continue to single crochet until the end of the row. When I get to the chains in the middle, I'm only going to work into the back loops of the chains so that I can work onto the outer loops when I make the next leg. And if you like, you could also mark these two stitches on either side of the chains that I made at the middle front and the middle back of the previous row, because when we come back to make the other leg later, these two stitches will count as a stitch each on the other side, and so will the outer loops of the chains in the middle. So I finished with my first leg row. If you want, you could increase the size of the doll's legs by doing a few increases at each side per row until the leg is the width that you like. But I'm not going to do that for this doll. Next, I'm going to slim the thighs until they're the width that I want for the top of the knee. I'm going to decrease every few rows so that the leg gets smaller little by little. If you prefer, you could just make basic straight legs by single crocheting until you have the length you want for the legs. But I'm going to shape the legs a bit to make the doll a bit more realistic. To do that, I'm going to single crochet normally for 2 rows before I do my decrease. I'm going to do 2 rows of single crochet in between each row of decrease. Alright, I finished my 2 rows of single crochet. Now in this next row, I'm going to decrease just 1 time. It doesn't really matter where the decrease goes, I'm just going to put it at the front of the leg. Then I'm going to continue to single crochet until the end of the row. Now I'm going to do my 2 rows of regular single crochet before my next row of decrease. I ended up repeating this 2 more times. So I decreased 3 stitches for the thigh and did 2 rows of single crochet in between each row of 1 decrease. You could continue if you want the leg to be thinner or longer, or if you made a bigger doll. Just keep following the pattern of 2 rows of regular single crochet and 1 row with 1 decrease. Or if you want the leg to get thinner faster, you could either decrease more than 1 per row of decrease, or skip 1 or both of the rows of single crochet in between each row of decrease. If your doll's thighs are already thin enough, but you still want them to be longer, just continue to add rows of single crochet until your doll's thighs reach the desired length. But I'm just going to end the doll's thighs here, and I'm going to create the knees. So to widen the front of the knee, I'm going to increase twice at the front of the leg, and decrease twice at the back of the leg, so that the front gets bigger while the back gets smaller, but the row stays the same size. You can go on for as many rows as you want. I'm just going to do this for 2 rows to bulge out the front of my doll's knee. So I'm going to single crochet until I get to the front of the work, and then I'm going to increase these 2 front stitches. And then I'm going to continue until I get to the back. And then I'm going to decrease twice into these 4 back stitches. Alright, and then I'm going to do that for 1 more row. But you can do as many rows as you like until the knee bulges out as far as you want it. And again, if you want to bulge it out even further in fewer rows, you could do more than 2 increases and decreases per row. Alright, I finished my second row of the knee. Now, to finish the knee, I'm going to do the opposite of what I did in the previous rows, and I'm going to decrease 2 times at the front of the leg, while at the same time increasing the back of the leg for 2 rows, just like I did to start the knee. But you should do however many rows you did to start the knee. Alright, I finished my last 2 rows of knee. Now I'm going to add a bit of fiber fill to the top of the leg. If you want to make the calves even bigger, you could increase 2 times per row at the back of the leg until you have the width you want. I'm not going to do that for this doll though. I'm going to slim the leg until I have the width I want for the ankle. To slim for the ankle, I'm going to do pretty much exactly what I did to slim the thighs. I'm going to continue to single crochet as normal for 2 more rows. And then I'm going to decrease 1 time for 1 row. I'm going to repeat this 3 times to slim the leg. Alright, I've gotten to the end of 6 rows of single crochet and 3 rows of decrease. If you want to make the doll's legs even longer, you could continue to single crochet until the calf is the right length. But I'm not going to do that for this doll. I'm going to create the feet next, but first I'm going to once again add a bit of fiber fill to the leg. Next, I'm going to increase to create the foot. I'm going to increase 3 times at the back per row to create the heel, and increase 3 times at the front per row to create the actual foot. I'm going to repeat that until the heel is a good size. I'll go on for 2 rows, but you can do as many rows as you like to make the heel. Now I've increased at the front and back to make the heel of the foot and the front of the foot pop out for 2 rows. Now I still want to make the foot longer without making the heel pop out anymore, so I'm going to do plain single crochet at the back of the foot, and I'm going to keep increasing 3 times at the front of the foot. That way the back of the foot will stay the same width, while the front of the foot gets bigger. I'm going to go on increasing just at the front for just 1 row. And next I'm going to end the heel, but I still want to make the foot longer. So I'm going to decrease 3 times at the back of the foot and increase 3 times at the front of the foot until the foot is a good length. That way the back of the foot will get smaller while the front of the foot gets bigger. I'm going to go on increasing like that for just 1 row, but you can go on increasing until the foot reaches a length you like. Now I'm going to end the foot, but first I'm going to put just a bit more fiber fill in. Alright, I've added my fiber fill. Now I'm going to finish the foot. To do that, I'm going to continue to decrease 3 times per row at the back of the foot, but now I'm going to start to decrease 3 times per row at the front of the foot too. I'm going to continue to do that until the hole is small enough to sew closed. I'm going to continue decreasing for 3 more rows. So I finished decreasing for 3 rows. Now I have 9 stitches left in my row at the bottom of the foot. If you like, you could decrease a few more times if you want the hole to be even smaller. I'm not going to do that for this doll, so I'm going to slip stitch to the next stitch of my row to end the row. And I'm going to cut off a long tail of my yarn, and I'm going to use that tail to sew the hole at the bottom of the foot closed. But first I'm going to add a bit more fiber fill. I'm going to once again use my dowel stick to push the fill into the doll. Alright, I finished sewing the bottom of the foot closed. Before I make the next leg, I'm going to make sure to finish stuffing the body of the doll. And now I'm going to make the other leg. I'm going to pull up a loop using the same color into one of these skipped stitches at the base of the hips. I'll start at the back. And make sure that you're working your stitches in the same direction as before, from this side to this side. Then chain 1, and that's going to count as the new first stitch of the row, so I'm going to mark it with my bobby pin. Then I'm going to single crochet into each of these stitches for 1 row, including these stitches that I marked earlier that I've already worked into, and into the chains that I made at the middle. Alright, I've gotten to the middle, so now I'm going to work into that first marked stitch. Then into the chains in the middle, and then into the last marked stitch. And now this leg should be the same number of stitches as the leg on the other side. Now I'm going to repeat what I did on the other side to create this other leg, starting by repeating 2 rows of regular single crochet, then 1 row with 1 decrease, to gradually slim the thigh just like I did on the opposite leg. I'm just going to make the other leg exactly the same way. Make sure to keep the same tension in your yarn to make sure that the legs are as close to the same size as possible. And finally, when I finish making the entire doll, I'm just going to use some yarn of the same color to outline the shapes of all the doll's muscles. This is entirely optional. The muscles look fine on their own in person, but they don't look very clear on the camera, so I'll go ahead and outline them. If you want to see how I outline these muscles in more detail, I made a separate video where you can see everything I do to outline the shapes of each muscle. You can find a link to that video in the description. And now the doll is finished. Now he just needs clothes. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, give it a like or share it on social media. If you want to see how I made the hair on this doll, check out my short doll hair tutorial. Or you could check out any of my other doll hair tutorials. There'll be a playlist at the end of this video. If you want to support my work, consider donating to my Patreon page. You can get some pretty cool perks through Patreon, like seeing my videos before everyone else. Find more information about that at patreon.com/fairyrings. I had been meaning to make a doll like this for a long time, and I'm really happy with the way the muscles look. It really adds a lot. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments section. And if you use this pattern, I'd love to see your interpretation. Send me pictures at any of my social media pages. There'll be links in the description below. And if you want to keep seeing new videos like this in the future, subscribe to my channel and I'll see you all next time. Bye!